I am a 27-year-old man and I live with my fiancé in the UK. I currently work as a teaching assistant for adolescents with special educational needs at a school near Bradgate Park in Leicestershire. I have worked in various schools and children's homes, and these buildings were usually converted old houses or halls. This story happened in 2013 when I was working as a support staff member in a care home for teenagers and young adults who needed assistance due to conditions like autism or brain damage. The care home where I worked was quite large. It had 2 living rooms, a large kitchen, a games room, a library, and 5 bedrooms. It also had a spacious garden with a summer house and a special activities room, and behind it were vast fields and a forest. I worked night shifts there for about 3 weeks. My hours were from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., and the job was to ensure all residents slept comfortably through the night and to finish cleaning before the day staff arrived. I usually finished all the work by about 1 a.m., and I spent the rest of the time listening out for anyone who might wake up. After the work was done, I would watch TV, read college textbooks, or sometimes play mobile games. Typically, nothing ever happened at night. One night, one of the residents, James, was restless. James was strong, though not big in stature, and he could get angry over trivial things. He once threw a staff member out through a glass door because they gave him tea without cold water. James couldn't form complete sentences, but communicated by combining relatively simple words in a way he could understand. For example, when he wanted to make breakfast, he would say, "James, make breakfast," or when he wanted to play outside, he would say, "James, outside, go." He was generally polite and quite funny, but he was known for his quick temper. Around 11 p.m., James got up and came downstairs to make a drink. I stood in the doorway, watching to ensure he didn't break anything or hurt himself, and James went back upstairs without any major issues. I sat on the ground floor stairs and watched his room for about 15 minutes to make sure he didn't wake any other residents. Seeing no problem, I resumed my cleaning. There was a communal living room directly beneath James's bedroom. As I was dusting and cleaning the floor there, I heard something heavy fall from the floor above. Since James had a temper and would easily get angry if he was dissatisfied, I immediately went upstairs and knocked on his door. When there was no response and I was pulling out my key to open the door myself, James opened it and looked at me. He seemed perfectly fine, his eyes half closed as if he had just woken up. "James, are you okay?" James replied that he was fine, giving me a thumbs up. Since this was the gesture James made when he was in a good mood and not stressed, I assumed he had simply knocked something over. About an hour passed, and I was cleaning the sink in the kitchen. Then, I heard the sound of something falling from above again, and I instantly realized that the room directly above the kitchen was empty. There were a total of 5 bedrooms, but only 4 residents currently lived there, and the room above the kitchen was the empty one. I went to check just in case, but it was empty as expected. Everyone was asleep now, and each room had an alarm that only worked at night. If someone left their room, a small receiver carried by the night staff would make a sound and a light would flash for a few seconds. Also, because each room had a number, we could tell which door had been opened. Since no such alarm had rung, I knew that whoever made the noise was not a resident. I decided I had misheard and continued cleaning, and for the rest of that night, no other sounds were heard. The next night, I arrived for work before 10 p.m., and as I stepped into the hallway, I knew something was wrong. James was under the stairs, covering his ears, grumbling loudly in distress, and 3 staff members were with him. A few minutes later, after he was taken to the living room, the manager explained what had happened. For the past 4 hours, James had been quite anxious, repeating the same words over and over. "Sarah, little girl. This was the first time something like this had happened, and they thought he was just repeating something he had seen on TV or in a movie. Once James was settled in bed, the night staff left, and the other staff member who had stayed behind went up to the staff bedroom. I continued my duties and finished the work around 1 a.m. as usual. Then I went upstairs to check on all the residents. When I reached the first floor landing, I saw that all the lights were off. There were 2 small hallways leading to the bedrooms on either side of the stairs, and James's room was on the left. The light switch was right in front of his room. I rounded the corner to turn on the light, and at that moment, in the dark, silent space, I spotted James. He was standing naked in the corner, his eyes wide open as much as possible. I am a large man, 6 feet 3 inches and 220 pounds, but I felt an instant chill run down my spine. "James, what's wrong?" I asked calmly, but James said nothing, so I turned the light back on, and that's when James let out an ear-piercing scream and started hitting his own face. The sound woke up all the sleeping staff, who then helped calm the situation. After getting James back to bed, we reassured the other residents that everything was fine. I had a 4-day break after that night. My shift pattern was 7 days on, 2 days off, followed by 8 days on and 4 days off, so I felt some relief that this incident occurred just as my break was starting. When I returned to work the following week, they said James's fixation on the little girl had worsened. He spent hours looking out the garden window, repeating the same phrase, and no one knew where he had heard those words. "Little girl, where are you? Little girl, where are you?" Around 3 a.m. that morning, the alarm for room 5, the empty room, went off, indicating the door had opened. That was impossible since the room was empty and always kept locked. I immediately went up to check and found James standing in the middle of the dark room. "Where are you?" James was still whispering faintly, not noticing I had entered. I gently took his shoulder. "Come on, James. Let's go back to your room. It's late." James turned and headed toward his room, and I felt instantly relieved. However, when I locked the empty room's door, he began to scream, "No!" and punch the door with his fists. At the same moment, the alarm for the front door went off. Only the manager and I had keys to the front door. The door had 4 locks, 2 of which required keys, and it also needed an electronic key card for access. It was 3:25 a.m., and the manager wouldn't arrive before 8 a.m., so I assumed there was a serious problem. My immediate priority, however, was to calm James down. James finally settled down and went into his room, and I went downstairs to check the front door. The door was wide open. I immediately closed the door and began checking all the rooms to see if anyone had entered. All the residents were accounted for and fine. Everything was calm and without issue until 2 a.m. the next night. Then, one of the residents, Connor, woke up and said someone was tapping on his bedroom window. This was impossible, as the window was on the 3rd floor, at least 7.5 meters, about 25 feet, above the ground. I thought he must have been dreaming. I checked the window to reassure Connor. It was definitely closed and locked, so no one could enter. Just as Connor was about to go back to bed, we both heard footsteps walking up the stairs outside the room. Connor froze for a moment, then looked at me with an expression instantly filled with terror. I opened the door to check who it was, but there was no one there. Has he come back?" Connor asked, scared. "Who has come back? What do you mean?" In response to my question, Connor looked over my shoulder, lay down in bed, and pulled the blanket up to his mouth. I kept looking behind me to see what he was looking at, but there was still no one. Tell him to go away," Connor quietly said in a frightened voice. I reassured him that there was nothing there, turned on the bedside lamp, and left the room. I went downstairs, poured a cup of coffee, and sat on the front porch. It was mid-January and 28 degrees Fahrenheit, about -2 degrees Celsius, outside, but I felt like I needed to get out of the house for a bit. About 40 minutes later, I went back inside, washed and dried the cup, and put it in the cupboard. Under the cupboard was a locked drawer where the knives were usually stored. Strangely, I saw that it was slightly ajar. This was a big problem, as residents could not access the knife drawer without supervision. I counted the knives and realized one was missing. I woke up the sleeping staff member, explained the situation, and we started a search. After 2 hours, we still couldn't find the missing knife. We decided to remain vigilant and check if any residents were hiding it. 2 more hours passed, and around 5:30 a.m., the alarm rang again. The empty room's door had opened once more. I went up and checked, but the door was locked. I decided to check inside the room, so I went in and turned on the light. I was faced with an unexpected and bizarre scene. The bed had been pushed from its spot and was flush against the wall, and the closet door was open. Screws and nails were scattered on the floor, but nothing was broken. But the strangest thing was that in the middle of the room, there was a child's doll, a gold bracelet, and the missing knife. The doll looked like a vintage style, perhaps from the 1950s. The bracelet was simple in structure, but felt old. I left everything as it was and reported it immediately upon the manager's arrival. The bracelet didn't belong to anyone and was sent to a charity shop along with the doll. After the doll and bracelet were gone, James became calm and never again mentioned the little girl or stood naked in the dark. This incident could not be explained by anything. I decided to consider it just a combination of the strange behavior of autistic patients and the conditions of an old facility. My one regret is that we disposed of the doll and bracelet, so there is no way to investigate further or confirm what happened. Was this a supernatural phenomenon? I am currently working day shifts and have no plans to return to night shifts anytime soon.